This will be for the con exercise, comparing center and spread. All right, so many of these write-ups you don't really need to read, or maybe just part of them. All right, it says the histograms below shows the daily high that were recorded during January 2013. All right, so the first one histogram is for Portland, and this shows the number of days and the temperature in degrees Celsius. And this one is for Minneapolis, number of days, and the temperature is in degrees Celsius. All right, so we want to compare the center and the variability. The first question is about the center, and it compares Minneapolis to Portland, and they want to know if the center is greater than, less than, or about the same. So we're going to compare the center. All right, we are going to compare the center for both Minneapolis and Portland. So let's take a look. All right, so the center for Portland, I mean, you could count, but you really could just eyeball it. Okay, if we took this part of the graph, and put it here, the center is still somewhere in this section here. Okay, we're just looking to find the center. So I'm going to say the center for Portland, the center is between 4 and 7. All right. So for Portland, the center is going to be in this bar here between 4 and 7. All right. It probably doesn't have to be exact. And let me see. Yeah, that's close enough for now. All right, we're just looking for the center. And then if we go to the other graph, and this is for Minneapolis, and we're going to find the center. All right, the center for this data, I would say, is about either this one or this one of these two. I'm going to go with this one here. All right, so the center for Minneapolis is between -5 and it goes to, we're not subtracting, I'm just showing you. It goes from -5, let me fix that. It goes from -5 to -2, and the center for Portland goes from 4 to 7. So the one for Portland is clearly greater than the one for Minneapolis. All right, so the center for Minneapolis is going to be less than the center for Portland. Now we're looking for variability. All right, that's going to be how spread out the data is. And if you look at the data for Portland, it only runs from 1 to 13. All right. Let me just make a note of that, 1 to 13. But if you scroll down and you look at the data for Minneapolis, that runs all the way from -20 to 7. So clearly, this is way more spread out than the one for Portland. This one has more variability. So the one for Minneapolis has more variability. All right, so let's complete the sentence. The variability for Minneapolis is going to be greater than the variability for Portland. All right, so that's it. All right, less than, greater than. All right, so the lower dot plot shows the time in seconds of the 8 sprinters who competed in the final, the women's 100, and then the 2012 Olympic Games. The upper one shows the U.S. qualifying meet. Okay, so one of them is for the U.S. qualifier. The other one is for the Olympic final. And they're going to ask us about the center and variability. All right, so let's check it out here. Shouldn't be too difficult. If I were to pick out the center for the U.S. qualifier, if I were to pick out the center of these dots, I would say the center is about right there. And if I were to pick out the center for the Olympic final, the center of these dots is about right there. All right, so for the center, the one for the U.S. qualifier is greater than the one for the Olympics. All right, so the U.S. qualifier is greater than the Olympics. See, the center for the qualifier is here. All right, but the center for the Olympics is here. And that makes sense. They're going to run faster in the Olympics than the U.S. qualifier. All right, and now let's compare the variability. For the U.S. qualifier, it runs from here to here. And for the Olympics, it runs from here to here. Okay, I would say this variability, I would say this data is more spread out than this data. So as far as variability is concerned, I would say the Olympic runs vary more than the ones from the U.S. qualifier. So for the variability, the Olympic ones are greater than the ones for the U.S. All right, so the center for the Olympic final is going to be less than the one for the U.S. And the variability for the Olympic final, we said the Olympic final variability was greater than. All right, so that's it. Less than, greater than. All right, the back-to-back stem plot shows the number of weeks that each song was played for the top 100. All right, so one of them was for the beginning of the hour at 7. The other one began at 11. All right, and 2/0 equals 20 weeks. So we want to compare the center and variability for the 7 a.m. and the 11 a.m. All right, so let's see. First, let's find the center, okay, roughly speaking. So we're looking at the 11 a.m. side first. And where is the center of this data? Well, I would say it is, if you looked at all these numbers, I would say the center is about here. All right, and then if you look at the one for 7 a.m., this side here, if you found the center, I would say the center is about right here. Okay, so this center is going to be at 0.6. All right, the center is 6. And over here, this center is going to be at about 1.7. All right, so the 7 a.m. center is greater than the 11 a.m. center. All right, so for the center, the one for 7 a.m. is greater than the one for 11 a.m. Pretty simple. And then if we look at the variability, how much the data is spread out. The variability here, on this side, it starts at 0, and then it goes to 20. But on this side, it starts at 0, 1, so that's 1, and then it goes to 30. So clearly, for the variability, the 7 a.m. side varies more, okay? So for the variability, the 7 a.m. side is greater than the 11 a.m. side. It just has more variability. So in both cases, center and variability, the 7 a.m. side was greater. All right, so the center for 7 a.m. was greater than, and the variability was also greater than. All right, one more here. They're comparing the Olympics to the U.S. qualifier. All right, pretty simple. Looking at center and variability. So let's see. We got the box and whisker plot. All right, for the center, you want to look at the bar that's in the middle of the rectangular box. So this center for the U.S. qualifier is there, and the center for the U.S. Olympics is right there. So clearly the one for the Olympics is greater than the one for the qualifier. All right, the one for the Olympics is greater than the U.S. qualifier. And for the variability, just look how spread out it is. All right, the one for the U.S. qualifier is from here to here, but the one for the Olympics is from here all the way to here. Clearly, there is more variability in the Olympics than the U.S. qualifier. All right, so in both cases, the Olympics is greater. All right, greater than on both of them. Whoops, let's see what happened. Oh, I did it backwards. They're asking us the center of the U.S. qualifier, so it's less than. I thought the Olympics were first, and this one is also less than. So the U.S. qualifier is less than on both of them.